So there's evidently this big whole ordeal with select individuals claiming that tack vanes do not stick, and I'm here to tell you that is incorrect. I have it happen almost on the weekly. Somebody will come in our shop and say, hey man, why do you sell tack vanes? They don't stick. Well, then I'll go through the whole question ordeal of, okay, what glue are you using, what priming pin are you using, what fletching jig are you using, and pretty much 10 times out of 10 they're doing something wrong, and that's why they're not sticking. So in this video, I'm going to show you what I recommend, the prep process, and how to actually get the tack vanes to stick, because I promise you I wouldn't use them if I didn't believe in them. Now, are there other options out there as far as fletchings go? Absolutely. These are just the ones that we typically prefer, and we've had a lot of success with them, so we're going to keep using them. Before you even need to concern yourself with fletching tack vanes, you need to obviously make sure you have a fletching jig that works with them. So for example, we really like the Bitzenberger and the Phoenix from October Mountain. Both of them work phenomenally with the tack vanes. The reason why we prefer these style of jigs is because you can physically push down on the fletching in order to make sure it seats properly on the arrow shaft and it adheses the way it's supposed to. There are other fletching jigs out there that don't work well with tack vanes. Point in case, the Last Chance archery jig. I used it for years, and then I started using tack vanes and started having adhesion problems because I wasn't able to apply the pressure I needed. I really like that jig. I like all the accessibility of it, but for tack vanes, because of how stiff they are, it really just didn't work that well. So the next thing when somebody's talking about tack vanes not sticking correctly, I always also like to ask, what priming pin and what glue are you using? Majority of the time they use super glue, some kind of off-brand glue, or glue that's not recommended for tack vanes. If you go on their website, it specifically says use our priming pin and our glue. There are a few exceptions out there. If you're somebody that fletches a lot of your own arrows, you've probably played around with different adhesions and maybe found another one that works. But for somebody who's just starting off, stick with what the directions recommend. I'm gonna go through my arrow prepping for this whole ordeal, starting off with acetone. Now, not everybody keeps acetone laying around their house. You can use rubbing alcohol as well, but what this does is, I'm gonna put it on a paper towel as soon as I found it. And I'm just gonna splash a little bit on here. And this is gonna clean all the carbon dust from the arrow shaft that I want to fletch. And you would do this same process whether you were taking the fletchings and sticking them directly to the carbon, or if you were gonna wrap the arrow first and then fletch it. So that's nice and clean. I think I already cleaned this one earlier actually, so that one wasn't bad obviously. For fits and giggles, I'm just gonna use this Bitzenberger. Go ahead and set it in there, and I guess I need a tack vane. Just gonna grab these 2.75s. We pretty much only stock, actually we do only stock the 2.75s and the 2.25s. We like them, our customers really like them, so we're gonna keep using them. Now, one of the ordeals where people kind of screw up from the get-go is not having their jig set properly. You can adjust these jigs left and right, high and low, however you wanna look at it, to where you wanna make sure that you're getting proper contact. I call it the throat of the fletching, but you want to basically make sure it's seating all the way down on the carbon. Whether you're doing a helical or a straight fletch, it doesn't matter. You want to make sure you have good contact from the tip of the fletching to the back of it. So I got our jig set up here. We're not going to do anything overly fancy with the helical. I'm just going to use a straight clamp. Obviously got our arrow already seated in there. I'm just going to take my clamp, set it on the magnet, slide it back against the bits, and I'm going to apply pressure at the top here and at the bottom. And it looks like, as long as I can't see daylight creeping through the back end or the front end of the fletching, I know I'm good. So we're gonna roll with that. If you decide you're gonna be, don't drop that. If you decide you're gonna be fletching a lot of arrows, I would recommend making the $6 investment on these little ordeals right here. They're little stainless steel tips. You can buy from Lancaster. They're literally $6 for a pack of 2. Because they're a whole lot easier to keep clean. They just make their own threads onto the tip of the glue. You just throw them in acetone overnight, they clean themselves, or the acetone cleans them, and you're good to go. All right, moving on. Step 1, take a paper towel, cut it in half. I'm gonna fold it up a couple times. And then I'm gonna take my priming pin, and then I'm actually gonna set it on a hard surface and press down on it. And I want to make sure, I don't know if y'all can see it or not, but there's a little puddle right there. that lets me know that the tip of my priming pin is now ready to roll. I want to make sure it's good and juicy. So we're going to take it, and I like to just, depending on how wet the priming pin is, this is pretty wet right now, I'm just going to do down one time. I'm just going to come down, boom, that's it. And I do like to blow on it to kind of dry it a little bit because I don't want it super liquidy. So all done there. Now I'm going to get my glue ready. Once I get this thing fired up, what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna do a small drop at the top, just like that, in the middle, and on the back end. And then I'm just gonna spread out what I put on the fletching already. I'm not applying more glue as I'm spreading it. I'm just spreading what glue I already have on the fletching. Once I've done that, come right here, hit it with the magnet, slide it back, press and hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 is by far long enough. Most of the time you just do 7 seconds and you're good. And that's with me holding pressure at the top and the back to make sure I'm pushing that fletching down and it's actually wrapping onto, not wrapping, but getting a good seat onto the carbon shaft. Open, pull. And if we got any excess glue, like I got a little bit right here, so I'm gonna put it back in the jig. I'm gonna take my paper towel, fold it up just like I did for the priming pin. I'm gonna start in the middle and I'm gonna wipe away. And then I'm gonna come back to the middle, wipe up towards me, and then just one more for good measure. Done. So this has been about 20 seconds, so it's really nice and dry right now. If you have a little bit of glue coming out the front end and the back end of the tack vane, that means you did it perfectly, in my opinion. That means you put the correct amount of glue instead of too much glue on like I just did. Now, if you don't have any glue at the front coming out or on the back, like I don't really have that much coming out the back, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna, they call it tip it if I'm not mistaken, just put a little glue at the back end to really help seat it down. It's more or less important to have it on the front versus the back end because obviously the front is what's gonna catch most of the damage on a pass-through. So let's do a little test now. This is a test that I've done several times on my TikTok page, but I've never done it on the old tube view. So obviously I got my arrow that I just fletched in this vise right here. This is a Black Eagle Renegade 300 spine, so it's pretty stiff. This fletching's been sitting here for probably 3 minutes, maybe less. So I'm just gonna grab it with a pair of pliers. We're gonna see what happens. Don't do this at home. Well, the fletching came off, but not before you couldn't use your arrow to begin with. Should have let it dry for 5 minutes. It would have just broke it in half and the fletch would still be on there. There's actually carbon stuck in there, so it actually peeled the carbon off. Ooh, I can feel it right there. Yeah, don't do that at home. All in all, guys, if you've ever had a bad experience with tack vanes, 9 times out of 10 is probably because you didn't follow the directions correctly. And if you look back and see what they actually recommend and give it a second chance, I think you'll be very happy and surprised with the results.